Welcome, everybody, to another edition of E.W. Jackson for America. Those of you who can, I know folks on Instagram cannot see it because you're not looking at the screen behind me. There is a screen behind me that provides the backdrop for the program. And you can see, I'm sure some of you can see, a glare that I've never had. I don't know why it's created. I probably shouldn't even point it out, but it bothers me. So I figure some of you might think, what is that? I don't know what that is. That's the first time that has appeared. I don't know whether the lights, there's some shift in the lights, or there's something that's different in the studio that I'm not aware of, and didn't notice it until I turned on the lights and got ready to start the program this morning. But that's real live television. That's the difference between a podcast where you actually go live and one where you tape and produce the program in advance, and then you just air it when the time comes, because that's when you can edit and change and shift and make all kinds of adjustments. And of course, I don't have an opportunity to do that because once I'm on, I'm on. But at least everything is working this morning, pretty much as it should. A couple of small things, but nothing that you all need to be concerned about. Let me say I'm going to end the program a little bit earlier today because I've got another responsibility today. It turns out I will be speaking at oh boy, you know what? Let me not even get into it. But this coming Thursday night, I got an engagement in Portsmouth here locally that just came up. I am going to be pinch hitting for the lieutenant governor who got called away, and I've been asked to do it for a dear friend of mine, Lawton Baker. And I don't think that's because that call just came in last night. Well, at least I know where I'm going to be speaking. I'm pretty sure this is the third Republican district, the third district for the Republican Party of Virginia. And I'm going to be speaking at the Elizabeth Manor Golf and Country Club at 1 Ace Parker Drive in Portsmouth. And so I'll be speaking there. And that event, I think, starts around 7 o'clock. So if you're in the area and you want to come hear me speak, or you just want to come attend a great event put on by some great people, Lawton Baker is really a tremendous man of God, a tremendous leader, and I'm honored to call him a friend. And when he called me at the last minute and asked me, could I do this, I told him, for you, I will do it, because I will. Even though it's bumps up right up against the conflict that I have, because I'm obviously doing Truth and Liberty that really ends at 7 o'clock Eastern time, and I really should be at the event, but I'm going to leave the studio after Truth and Liberty, after airing that program, and immediately jump in my car and head on over to this event. So if you're in the area, that's Thursday, this coming Thursday, June 6th, 7 o'clock p.m. at the Elizabeth Manor Golf and Country Club, 1 Ace Parker Drive in Portsmouth. And I don't know whether there's a cost to this or not, to tell you the truth, folks, so forgive me for that. I'm telling you to attend, and you show up and they say, oh, that's going to cost you. And you say, well, nobody told me it's going to cost me. Not my event, I'm just showing up. So I would suggest that you get in touch with, ooh, wow, if you're interested in going, who do you get in touch with? My goodness gracious. Let me figure that out, because it's terrible. This just came in last night, so I'm trying to give it to you straight off the cuff, which might be a mistake. But again, that's the danger of live television, where you don't get to do graphics and have everything come up and all of that. So let me see if I can find out for you, though, exactly where to refer you if people want to go. Okay, let me do that. See if I can do that real quickly. Where do people, if they want to attend the Thursday night event? Okay. Let's see if I can get an answer to that question before the program is over, just in case. All right. I got two things I want to cover today in the time that I'm going to take with you today. And by the way, don't forget the dinner. Tickets are sold out, thank God. But sponsorships are still available. Somebody asked me yesterday, can you still sponsor? I said, absolutely you can still sponsor. I said, you can sponsor up until the time the program starts. If someone talks to me at 6:55 before the program starts and say, hey, I want to be a sponsor, you're in. Write the check or send me the check, and we will acknowledge you as a sponsor tonight. Because obviously we want all the sponsors we can get. I wanted to get to 50. I only got to 31, but that's in 2023, we only had 19 sponsors. This year we've got 31 sponsors. So we made tremendous progress. So I consider that a success, and I'm going to keep marching toward my goal of 50. We didn't get to 50 this year. We'll get to 50 next year, because I'll start now with 31, who I hope will all come back, and then I'll find another 19 who will sign on as well. Where there is no vision, the people perish. You got to have vision. You got to have goals. You got to have something that you're shooting for, right? So if you want to be a sponsor, you want to be number 32 or 33 or 34, 35, feel free. All takers are welcome. Just go to the website, standamerica.us, standamerica.us, and sign up as a sponsor. Doesn't matter whether you can come. I'd love to have you come, but if you can't come, that's okay. You're supporting a very worthwhile effort. Now, so two issues I want to talk about today. One is, and I'll come back to this from time to time throughout the month, but one is this whole so-called, because it's a misnomer and a lie, Gay Pride, or Pride Month. I guess they call it just Pride Month now. Pride in what? Pride in what? And notice it Pride Month. What is that? What does that even? See, this is what the left does. They twist and contort language to a point where nobody really knows what they're talking about, and it really becomes code for them. What they really mean is pride and perversion. Now, let's be honest about it. That's why Facebook wants to censor me. That's why YouTube wants to censor me. That's why Fox doesn't want to have me on anymore. That's why some of the conservative secular networks don't have me on anymore, because the homosexual mafia complains and says, you're having E.W. Jackson on. He's homophobic. He's anti-gay. No, I'm anti-sin. Okay? I'm anti-sin. Whether it's in me or in anybody else. I hate sin when it tries to rear its ugly head in my life. I hate sin when it tries to rear its ugly head in anybody's life. And I certainly hate the idea of promoting sin as something that you ought to have pride in. Somebody said to me one time, well, but you know, adultery is sin too. I said, yeah, but I don't see an adultery Pride Month, do you? I don't see anybody marching and saying, let's have pride in adultery. Everybody, all adulterers, be proud of your adultery. Be proud that you're covenant breakers. I mean, I don't see that, do you? No. So really what they're talking about is pride in perversion. Pride in sexual deviancy, which I don't know what there is to be proud of, do you? But nevertheless, they have appropriated this. You don't hear the president, you don't see the presidents of the United States giving proclamations for Mother's Day or Father's Day anymore. Now they give a proclamation for this so-called, this abomination that they call Pride Month. Well, I refuse to celebrate any such garbage, obviously. But what I have done, what Stand has done, is we've created Celebrate Traditional Marriage and Family. And we've taken the period from Mother's Day to the end of June, which encompasses Mother's Day and Father's Day, and we call that Celebrate Traditional Marriage and Family Month. See, if I'd become President of the United States, I would not issue any proclamation for homosexuality and gender confusion and sexual deviancy. I would issue a proclamation honoring mothers and fathers, motherhood and fatherhood, and traditional marriage, male, female, in the bonds of holy matrimony, one man and one woman. That's what I would have proclaimed. And that's why I ran. I ran because I know I'm the only one who is prepared to say something like that. And to say I'd absolutely refuse to issue any proclamation celebrating sexual perversion and deviancy. I wouldn't dishonor God that way. I don't want to dishonor God in any way. Lighting the White House up with rainbow colors and all this garbage. I mean, just abominable. So, I said all that to say, but here we are in this beautiful month of June that is really being dragged into the abyss by these perverts. And because that's what they are, folks. Homosexuality is perversion. Okay? Period. The Bible says it's perversion and that it's an abomination to God. You don't like that? Don't get mad at me. Don't censor me. Talk to God and explain to him how you know better than he does what's right and what's wrong. Okay? And go try to censor the Bible and say we want all Bibles banned. Try that one. No, don't ban Bishop E.W. Jackson. Go ban the Bible. Because all I'm doing is quoting it. Because that's exactly what it teaches. In fact, I'm sure you all know the Bible says that among a bunch of others as well who practice these things, homosexuality is included, they shall not enter the kingdom of God. And you got all these people running around, people like Andy Stanley, who came up on our call yesterday, apparently allowing homosexuals to be married in his church. I mean, that is a direct affront to God. I'm serious, folks. You can't overstate the case here. You just might as well say, God, come here. Let me spit in your face because what you say and what your word says means nothing to me. I discount it. But we're a church. But we're a church. But we're doing church our way, not your way, okay? Our terms, not your terms. Who do you think you are, God? We do what we want to do. What do you think the Bible is? You think we ought to follow the Bible? What's wrong with you? No, we're not following any Bible. We're going to do what we want. We're going to be our own Bible. We're going to be our own God. And we're going to come together and worship ourselves. Because that's really what in effect they're doing. You know, the word church the root of the word church is the Greek word kurios, which is always translated Lord or the Lord in the New Covenant, kurios, K-U-R-I-O-S, that comes down through Germanic languages as Kurk, with a CH spelling. So Kurk, church, Kurk, or Kurke comes right down from kurios, which means people of the Lord. That's what the word church actually means, the people of the Lord. Kurke. So the name Kirk is really the word church. Those of you, somebody by the name Kirk, you tell them, did you know your name means church? Because that's what the name church, Kirk, means. But it uses the K instead of the CH because the CH produced the K sound, the K sound in the ancient languages. These institutions that are marrying homosexuals are not the Kurke. They are not the people of the Lord. They are the people of the devil. And a minister presiding over that is not a minister of the gospel. He is a minister of Satan. I don't care what he thinks. I don't care what he calls himself. I don't care what he can have all kinds of proofs in his, oh no, I'm really following Jesus. You're a liar. You're a liar. You're following Satan. Because Jesus is not sanctioning any homosexual relationships. He is holy and righteous altogether. and there is no unrighteousness in him. None. Well, at any rate, so away with this so-called Pride Month. And see, here's the reason why, folks, this is so important. I want to get to a couple of specific issues on this before I run out of time here. What all of this is trying to do, look, people can do, we live in a free country, and people can pretty much do what they want to do as long as they're not committing a crime or they're hurting someone else, right? And look, let me just be clear. I defend their right to do whatever they want to do. I don't defend what they do or defend it as right, but I defend their right to be wrong. Okay? That's what freedom is all about. So, yeah, somebody wants to live a homosexual lifestyle. It's abominable. It's sinful. It's disgusting. It's degrading. It's degenerate. It's depraved. But they're free to do it. And somebody says, well, let's go out and kill them all. I say, no, we're not doing that. And if you try to do that and I can stop you from doing that, I'm going to stop you from doing that, because the point is redemption, not destruction of people. It's like James and John wanting to call down fire on the Samaritans when they were passing through Samaria. And Jesus said, you know not what of spirit you are of. I didn't come to destroy men, but to save them. So we want to save people, not destroy them. But that doesn't mean we agree with them. Psalm 119, verses 104 and 128. All of your precepts concerning all things I consider to be right. Therefore, I hate every false way. I hate it. Don't hate these people, but I hate the false way that they promote. And here's the thing. All of this stuff is trying to normalize sin and degeneracy and depravity and deviancy. That's what it's really trying to do. Trying to normalize it. I mean, look, I don't know who this woman is. Some of you probably do. This Ms. Rachel. Ms. Rachel. Apparently a popular child education YouTuber. She's got 10 million followers, and she promotes this, get this now, to toddlers. She promotes what she calls toddler learning. Did you hear that? Toddler learning. My granddaughter's a toddler. Toddlers are 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old? I don't know about 5, but in that range, right? I don't know what the official designation might be for something like that, but she comes out with a video congratulating everybody on homosexuality. Happy Pride, quote, happy Pride to all of our wonderful family and friends. This month and every month, I celebrate you. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're exactly who you are. In other words, I'm so glad you're a sexual deviant. I'm so glad you are an abomination to God. Because, I mean, that's what she's saying. She's celebrating homosexuality, celebrating gender confusion, celebrating drag queens. And look, folks, the fact that they are promoting this stuff to toddlers tells you these people are being used by the devil to groom kids to be sexually exploited by adults who want to use them for their own perverse pleasure. Can you interpret it any other way? Why would you even, I mean, you're programming to toddlers. Why are you even getting into homosexuality? Because she's sick, spiritually sick. And she wants to push that mess on kids. So there'll be more people to justify her sickness and the sickness of others who buy into this. And you can have the children affirming your sickness and your deviancy and your degeneracy, because sadly these poor children don't know any better, And of course, they can be easily manipulated and easily lured into this perverse thinking. They're trying to normalize this stuff. There can be no mistake about it. That's why now every program you turn on, pretty much, they got to have some kind of, I mean, even the commercials now, filled with these guys slobbering over each other. I mean, just thoroughly, oh my goodness. I mean, it's enough to make you nauseous. It really is. It's disgusting. God didn't design two men to be slobbering over each other and all that. He just did. That's not God's design. God made men for women and women for men. And just to draw a distinction here for people who say, yeah, but all sin is the same. No, it's not. All sin is worthy of death. That's true. But I say, the Bible distinguishes between some sins. I've said, I mean, my goodness gracious, what did Jesus say to Pilate? When Pilate questioned him, and Jesus said, when Pilate said to him, I have power of life and death over you, and Jesus said, you have no power over me except what's been given you from above. Therefore, he that delivered me to you has the greater sin. Jesus made a distinction. Pilate, you're sinning, but your sin is not as great as Judas' sin. All sin is the same. Well, Jesus made a distinction between two sins, the sin of Pilate and the sin of Judas. He said Judas' sin was worse. They both sinned. And look, let me just make clear. Fornication is sin, adultery is sin, but relations between a man and a woman, even in those immoral circumstances, are not unnatural. They are simply immoral. Still sin, but not unnatural, because it's natural for a man to be attracted to a woman and for a woman to be attracted to a man. It is not natural for a man to be attracted sexually to another man, or for a woman to be attracted sexually to another woman. That is not natural. That's what makes it an abominable sin. You are violating not only God's moral law, which you're doing when you fornicate or you commit adultery, you are violating God's moral law. But when two men and two women get together sexually, they're violating God's moral law and God's natural law. Just want to make clear. And which is, again, I think, why they want to legitimize this sin so bad. Because if you legitimize this among the very worst of sins, then anything goes, right? I mean, my goodness gracious. If, homosexuality and all that is okay. What's the problem with adultery? And certainly, what's the problem with fornication? What's the problem with two people having sex, a man and a woman having sex without marriage? There's no issue, right? In other words, you've so lowered the threshold that anything goes. And that's exactly what they want, because in an atmosphere in which anything goes, exploitation is far more readily available, because nobody's throwing up warnings or walls or objections and say, hey, wait, but that's wrong. You can't say that. So 10 teams out of the NFL have refused to celebrate the so-called LGBTQ, I guess I don't know what this I don't know what they call this mess, but whatever it is. 10 teams have refused to celebrate it. Thank God for these teams. This is why, but 22 teams are celebrating it. Here are the teams that are not celebrating it. Maybe one of these teams is yours, and you can take some solace in that. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, Tennessee Titans, Kansas City Chiefs, Denver Broncos, Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay Packers, New Orleans Saints, and the Atlanta Falcons have all so far refused to participate in the so-called pride celebrations. No rainbows on their uniforms. No, we're acknowledging the homosexuals. None of that. Just play football. Well, man, that would be a giant step in the right direction. I'm not interested in having pro sports advance my spiritual, ideological viewpoint. That's not what I watch them for. I watch them to be entertained. Just do that. And stay out of the rest of it. If individual players want to do their thing, well, that's they're American citizens, mostly. They are welcome to exercise their freedom of speech, but the game of football is supposed to be about entertaining people with a game, not about trying to indoctrinate people with your political warped, spiritual, whatever it is, point of view. And that includes even if you're trying to advance what I would agree with. I don't think that's what football's for. Again, individual players can do and say what they want to say. But the game itself ought not be about, we got to play a second national, we got to play the black national anthem. We got to wear so-called pride stuff we got to acknowledge the homosexuals and the sexual deviants and the drag queens too. Why? Why don't you just play football and acknowledge the people who play it well? And keep trying to play, entertain people. That's what they tune in for. That's why I stopped watching that mess, because I don't want to have them shoving a bunch of garbage in my face. And then, that's just because I stopped watching when they started that flag kneeling nonsense. Because it said, you spit in my face and tell me it's raining, and then ask me to thank you for it and reward you for it. No, not happening. And to me, kneeling before the American flag, which I honor and respect, is spitting in my face. And I'm not inviting anybody to do that, so I'm done with the NFL. They need to get rid of Roger Goodell and get some leadership in there that will focus football on football and get off trying to placate what they see as all the crazy leftist black radicals and homosexual radicals and all these crazies running around who want football to somehow reward them for their craziness. And Roger Goodell doesn't have the sense God gave a gnat. He doesn't. He really doesn't. The man is clueless. I still can't figure out how in the world they pay this man $50 million a year and give him a private jet. Because to me, he's worthless. He should have been fired. How long has he been in that role? A decade ago. I think he's been in there at least. He should have never been hired as far as I'm concerned. Because there are a lot of people who've stopped watching football just like me. Who loved it, who enjoyed it, and stopped watching it. And those people didn't have to be lost. You wouldn't have lost all these crazies. Those who liked football would have kept watching it. But you wouldn't have lost, because they're going to keep watching it. And then you wouldn't have lost people like me who enjoyed the game, but don't want to be insulted. But, they continue down the same path, 22 teams. All the other teams, other than the ones I just named you, are going to be doing something to celebrate all this sexual deviancy. And folks, I keep calling it that because that's what it is. They're celebrating sexual deviancy. In the history of mankind, nobody has ever thought that men having sex with other men and women having sex with other women was somehow normal or right or the cultural norm to which we ought to aspire. No society's ever done that. You know why? Because it's a death knell. You can't propagate the species that way. It's not what we were designed for. It's not what we were made for, created by God for. One more. The United States Navy SEALs are being made to celebrate this so-called Pride Month. Our warriors. What are you going to do next? Teach them to switch and twitch? What are you going to do? Teach the Navy SEALs? You know what? You have to be a little bit more effeminate on the battlefield. Don't shoot your enemy. Kiss them. I know I'm being a little absurd with that, but What is the point of having these men who've gone through the most brutal training, who've been prepared to do the most difficult and dangerous and deadly things, but you got to get in touch with your rainbow? What? But we shouldn't be surprised, right? If you're willing to put a drag queen out there to try to recruit, then what else won't you do? I mean, who says, oh, wow, look, the Navy's using a drag queen to recruit. Man, I want to join the Navy. And they got a lot of comments from it. And you know what a lot of those comments were? By the way, they restricted the comments because they didn't like what they were seeing. A lot of people saying, I'm glad I got out before these people went crazy. Let me see if I can find a couple of these comments just to give you a sense of what the Navy got versus what they didn't like. Yeah, the third most liked comment was, so glad I got out before this blank took over. BS took over. Another one, the Navy SEALs have gone woke, are elite special forces. This is terrifying. And it is. It is, because these are the top warriors of our country, along with other special forces as well, in other branches. And to drag them into this nonsense is just, I don't know. This guy, U.S. Navy yeoman in second class, Joshua Kelly, says he performs drag queen shows on aircraft carriers while deployed. That's how they're entertaining our sailors. Having some man dress up like a woman and prance around the ship. I'll tell you, our enemies are looking at this stuff and going, it's not long before America falls. Because they've gone so sissified. They're so emasculating their men. They're so busy focused on the sexuality of everybody and the race of everybody and all these other issues that it's only a matter of time before they implode within. I think that's what our enemies are thinking. It's only a matter of time. Because they know America no longer has a moral core. Well, we do, and the moral core is you and me, and others like us who are standing up for what is right, no matter what they say. Okay, I'm going to take about 5 more minutes and talk a little bit about immigration. Joe Biden, you know, just saying his name, it's just, I'm almost at a loss for words to describe what I think of this man and his policies. But I think between him and Barack Obama and President Buchanan, I don't know why his first name is eluding me at the moment, but the president just before Abraham Lincoln, who was also a reputed homosexual, and Jimmy Carter. I'd put Jimmy Carter is not as bad. Jimmy Carter's not as bad as these two clowns, but those three are the worst presidents in the history of this country, in my view. The worst presidents in the history of this country. James Buchanan, because I really believe that he could have stopped the Civil War if he had been a real leader, but he was too busy being a dandy. Yeah, I said it because I mean it. He was too busy with his homosexual lifestyle. And Barack Obama, because he never loved this country, still doesn't really care about the future of America, except insofar as it rewards him financially and politically, and he's got people running around sort of still worshiping him as if he's some kind of god. But he doesn't care about America. But Joe Biden doesn't either. Joe Biden cares about lining the pockets of the Biden family. He'll sell us out to China, Russia, Iran, and anybody else for that matter. And his immigration policy now is supposed to somehow convince people that, no, we're doing something about the border. You know what it is, right? He's now going to limit the number of illegal immigrants who can cross willy-nilly under some sort of blanket asylum exception to 2,500 a day. That's 1 million a year, folks. Now, that's 1 million a year we process in. That's not the million a year, including those who are gotaways, who cross the border in places that we don't know and don't see, and they just find themselves in the country. And we're supposed to be somehow impressed by this. The president who said he had no power to do anything. The president who used 94 executive orders to undo what President Donald Trump did to stop the onslaught at the border. The president who undid all of that and created the biggest immigration crisis in the history of our country, who said, I can't do anything about it. I don't have power to do anything about it. Now suddenly, by executive order, he's going to reduce the number to a maximum of 2,500 a day. Look, all I can say, folks, is we must vote Joe Biden out of office. We must. Lord have mercy. Christians, don't be moved by, I don't care if they convict Donald Trump 15 times. Donald Trump needs to be the next president of the United States. The only other person I can think of who would do as good a job, and maybe even a better job than Donald Trump, is me. And I'm not going to be president of the United States. That's quite clear. Certainly not in 2024, probably never. But Donald Trump is the best hope we have of stopping the literal dismantling of the United States of America as we know it, because that's what's happening. Our country is being deconstructed right before our very eyes. And this little gesture towards some kind of immigration policy, after being told, by the way, the border is secure. And did you hear what Mayorkas said lately? Something to the effect that, you know, we are all in to secure the border. I mean, well, you know, when you can look at the American people just lied to their faces and think that they would actually buy into what you're saying, it just goes to show that either you're dumber than a rock, because you don't have a clue when it comes to the reality of circumstances, or you are just so profoundly corrupt and such a consummate liar that you can tell a lie like that without blinking and actually deceive yourself into thinking that the American people would buy into the lie, as opposed to just rearing back and looking at you thinking, how could a person look at us like that and tell a lie like that? When everybody can see that we've got a major crisis at the border. And the only reason why Joe Biden is doing this, obviously, is because he wants to get reelected. And he thinks that the American people are finally realizing, in spite of the Marxist Socialist No Brains channel and the Communist News Network and all these other alphabet networks ignoring the issue and trying to pretend there wasn't any crisis. In spite of all that, the American people have finally come to realize, because it's affecting them in their homes, in their backyards, in their children's schools, in the hotels. They're seeing it and they're feeling it for themselves. So you can no longer convince them, oh, no. Don't believe what your eyes show you. Don't believe what you're experiencing. Believe what I'm telling you. Just look at my mouth and watch me lie and buy it. And the American people say, no, we're not buying it. And Joe Biden is afraid that this might undermine his ability to get reelected. The man ought to lose so badly that it ought to go down in the history of the country as one of the greatest landslide victories for a president, Donald Trump, and one of the greatest defeats for an ignominious traitor to our country and its values by the name of Joe Biden that historians should be analyzing it for the next 100 years. And that's going to depend on you and me taking action. I mean, I wanted to get into some of the crimes that these people from Venezuela and other countries are committing. Remember, Donald Trump said they're not sending us their best? Duh. Oh, he's a racist. He's a racist. No, he's a realist. He's a realist. Because they're sending us the criminals, they're sending us the robbers, the rapists, they're sending us these young fighting men, they're sending us terrorists, they're sending us people who are on the terror watch list, they're sending us drug dealers, human traffickers, and we're supposed to pretend they're not because some of these people might have dark skin. So that trumps everything, right? I mean, that overrides everything. No, it does not. I got to go. But needless to say, I am fired up about this whole thing, this so-called Pride Month. We need to do away with that altogether. The American people just need to pretend it doesn't even exist. And celebrate Traditional Marriage and Family Month with us. We got a banner. We can get to you. We're developing literature. And we got a Family Restoration Institute that we're going to be launching here in the next few weeks. So we got a bunch of stuff going on to say, no, that's not the way to go. This is the way to go. But now I've got to go. So stand up, step up, speak up, refuse to back up, because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit, because we are on God's side.